Hi there, today I'm going to be making a pasta. I'm going to do a modified version. So instead of using pasta, I'm going to use spaghetti squash, and it's going to be a tomato cream shrimp pasta. So this is what a spaghetti squash looks like. You can find it at any grocery store, and I've just cut it down in the middle. And then you're going to scoop out all the seeds and all these little stringy looking things that are out here holding all the seeds in. So you just want to scoop all that out. Dump it. And you want to preheat your oven to 400 degrees before you start doing this, so it's nice and hot when you put it in there, because it's going to take about 20 minutes to cook. And I'm going to show you how it's done. I like to season mine before I put it into the oven, so that way it's got some flavor as it's cooking, which just makes it even better. So scoop out all this, and then I'll come back and I'll show you the next step. Okay, so I've scooped out all of the inside, all the seeds are out, and it's gonna look like this. And all you do is very simple. The oven's preheated to 400 degrees. You take a little bit of olive oil, put it on there, and then you can take your finger and just rub it in, or you can use a pastry brush. Your finger works just as fine, so just rub it in. Make sure you get it all over. And then you just want to season it with some salt and pepper. So, most of it's going on my pan, as you can hear. But season it with a good amount. And if you're on a no salt diet, then don't put it. But the salt and pepper, as it's cooking, for me, works out good. So all you want to do is flip them over. And I lined this baking sheet here just so the cleanup is easy. You want to flip them over. It's going to go in the oven at 400 degrees for about 20 minutes. After about 15 minutes or so, you want to check it. And all you want to do is just take a fork and push the skin. And if it's nice and soft, then you know your spaghetti squash is soft. So I'll come back and I'll show you what it looks like when it's done. Okay, so I'm going to work on my tomato cream sauce. And the first thing you want to do is put a little olive oil down in your pan. And I'm using an electric skillet here, which I've had this thing for so many years and it's lasted. So I'm going to pop down a half an onion, and I've got 4 cloves of garlic, and I'm just going to saute those up. Turn the heat down a little bit before they burn. And I'm going to throw in half a 8-ounce container of mushrooms, because I like mushrooms in this, and let all these saute up together. And when they get done, we'll start adding the rest of the stuff. The other thing that I like to do while these are sauteing is I like to season them with some salt and pepper. I like to season at every stage. It just makes the food taste better to me. So I got some salt and pepper in there, my onions, my garlic. I'm going to let this saute, and I'll come back when I'm ready for the next step. Okay, so my onions, mushrooms, and garlic are nice and sauteed. And so we're going to go on to the next step. Now this is a tomato cream sauce. So what we're going to add here is a can of fire roasted diced tomatoes, and I like the one with garlic. I'll add that in there. And then I've taken another one, and I've just put it in the processor here and pureed it. I like chunks and I like puree, so I have a little bit of both in here. So once this gets going, we're going to add the next portion, which is going to be the cream, which is going to make it the creamy tomato, and it's so good. So I have the heavy cream, and now this is where you're going to add as much as you want. You want it to be on the creamier side, or you want it to be more on the tomato based side. That's up to you. I like it nice and creamy, like somewhere in the middle. So this is a pint that I have, and I'm probably going to add about half of the pint. And you see that color that it's turning? That's what I'm looking for. So I'm gonna add just a tad bit more. So I've added about half a pint there. And that's the base of your tomato cream sauce. And then I like to add a little bit of water just to weten it up just a little bit. So just a little bit, and that's optional. You don't have to do that, but I like to do that because it's gonna cook off a little bit when I put the lid on here. So I'd rather the water cook off, and the water will cook off before the cream and the tomatoes. So if you add that water, that will help out. Now, seasoning. Since this is more of an Italian styled pasta, you want to stick to Italian seasonings. So I'm going to add some oregano, and this is just dry oregano. I'm just going to put about, 2 teaspoons. And then I'm going to add some more salt and pepper, and that's going to be to taste. So I seasoned the onions, the garlic, and the mushrooms while they were cooking. So now you're going to add more to season your sauce. And it really depends on how much or how little you want. So you'll just have to taste it, to make sure that you get the right amount that you prefer. Anyhow, once you get everything seasoned the way that you want it, you want to mix it in, and then you're going to cover this and you're going to simmer it. And you're going to simmer it for about 30 minutes. Give it time to really get going here and all the flavors to blend in. So that's all I'm going to do at this point. Now I'm going to cover it and put it down to a simmer. And once this is done simmering, we're going to add our shrimp. And our shrimp are raw, so when we put them in there, they're going to cook really, really quick. So you don't put them in until the last, 3 or 4 minutes before you're ready to serve this. Because the last thing you want is chewy shrimp in your pasta. So I'm gonna let this go, and I'll come back and show you how we finish it off here. Okay, so the spaghetti squash is cooked for about 25 minutes, and this is what you're looking for, this nice golden color. It's gonna be brown around the edges, obviously, because of the olive oil. And it's real easy to get it out, even though it's really hot right now, so make sure that you let it cool, but I'm gonna do it for sake of running out of time here. So all you're gonna do is just take a fork, you're just gonna run it down like this, and the spaghetti squash is just gonna come apart. And since it's hot like this, I'm gonna grab a pot holder and just set it on there and hold it like this, and just keep on shredding this spaghetti squash. And as you can see, this is why it's called spaghetti squash, because it looks like spaghetti noodles. So go ahead and empty out both of them. And when you're done, all you're gonna have is a shell. And I'll come back and I'll show you what the shells look like and how much spaghetti squash you get out of each one. Okay, so I've emptied out the spaghetti squash here, and this is how much you get from this size spaghetti squash, minus all the seeds and the little guts that were in there. This is what it yields. And I would say this is probably about, I don't know, maybe 4.5 cups of spaghetti squash. Now, mind you, per cup, it's 30 calories. So you're really cutting back, and it's squash, but it doesn't taste like, your regular squash. You have to try this at least once. It's so versatile, and it really holds up well when you add sauce or anything to it. Even making spaghetti squash hash browns, which I have another video, I'll be posting that soon, which they are so good. But this is what you're gonna have when you're done. It's just basically the shell. I mean, there's really nothing left in it. So you're really getting everything out of it. So I'm gonna finish up the rest of the stuff that I got going here, and then I'm gonna come back and I'm gonna show you how we finish off the sauce and add it to the pasta, to the spaghetti squash, and show you what it looks like. Okay, so this is the final stage of our tomato cream pasta. And now it's been cooking for about 25 minutes, and it's just been on a light simmer. I turned it up just a little bit because I'm going to add the shrimp now. I'm ready to serve it. So this is what your base is going to look like. It's not too thick, it's not too thin, it's just somewhere in the middle. And it's got nice chunks of vegetables in here. It's got the mushrooms, the onions, the tomatoes, and it's just really, really good. So we're gonna add the shrimp, and depending on how many people you're serving, is how much shrimp you're gonna add. So you're just gonna set the shrimp down in there. Be careful not to just plop them down in, or you're gonna get sauce spilled up in your face. Just set them down there. You're gonna see how quickly they cook. And these are nice large shrimp. You don't want to waste your time with the little small ones. I mean, if you're gonna have shrimp. So these are nice and large, and you only need 5 or 6 per person on a regular diet. I'll have about 2 with my spaghetti squash. So I'm gonna mix them in, and you see the temperature comes down because they were cold. I'm gonna put that up just a little bit more, the temperature, so the shrimp will start to cook. And once they turn pink, you're done and you're ready to go. Like I could see some of them already starting to turn. So what I'm gonna do is I'm just gonna put the lid back on here and let it simmer for a few minutes, and I'll be ready to plate, and I'll show you what it looks like. Okay, so the shrimp have been in there for a few minutes and they're ready. So to plate this, I've added about, I'd say ½ a cup of spaghetti squash. And now, just as a reminder, I had gastric sleeve, and so I'm still only at about ½ a cup of food. So I'm not gonna finish this whole thing, but I'm gonna show you how to plate this. So all you're gonna do is take a couple of shrimp and the sauce, and just put it right on top, and I like a little extra sauce. And then you wanna add some fresh basil and some shredded Parmesan cheese. And that is perfect. That's little bites with big flavor.